African extraterrestrials have alien genes in blood, part 2, right? O is the oldest blood type. O, you have 4 blood types. 8 blood types. O, A, B, A, B. And then you can switch them into 8 different combinations. Now, with that being said, you got these blood types from your parents' genes. Genes have a way of representing a bit of genetic history. Type O blood type is said to be the oldest blood and shows a connection to the hunter-gatherer creatures. Now, there were no hunter-gatherer creatures because we were advanced back then and we existed within an advanced form. Now, with that being said, when you delve into the Ancient Code article, right? This article published as what? Humans with blood type Rh negative belong to an extraterrestrial lineage, according to a new theory. Now scientists believe they have found out a fascinating thing in regards to Rh positive and Rh negative, according to this scientific theory. It is in the distant past, extraterrestrial beings visited the Earth and created through genetic manipulation the Rh negative, right, with an intention of creating a race of slaves. Ignore the slaves part. Don't believe that at all. And they want to put anything that ain't got to do with them motherfucking negative. So black people, we were slaves 500 years ago, and then aliens just made us slaves too. So when the fuck we ain't never not been goddamn slaves? Goddamn. What the fuck? But keeping it kicking. But aliens, really? According to investigators, this would explain why Rh negative mothers do not tolerate fetuses with Rh positive blood. How many times have Paul? How many times have I've been saying that shit since a year and a half ago? But keeping it kicking. Thus, this radical, hard to explain by most natural laws, intolerance could derive from an ancient genetic modification, why Rh positive and Rh negative groups tend to repel each other instead of merging. Okay? This theory goes back to ancient Sumerian times when a highly advanced alien race came from elsewhere in the cosmos, the Anunnaki, building and creating the first human societies. It is believed that these ancient beings planned and genetically altered primitive human species, creating stronger and more adequate beings that were used as slaves in the distant past. Pause. It is a scientific fact, which I'm getting ready to prove in a minute. I did it before. I'm going to do it again in this presentation. That all non-Africans are only 6,000 years old. So with that being said, there was no such thing as white people 6,000 years old. We can prove that black women have been here for damn near long as the planet been here. So if extraterrestrials came down and interacted with anybody, by default, it would be African people because we were the only fucking people here, period. Especially 200,000 years ago. Now, with that being said, the Rh negative will be the legacy that the Anunnaki left on Earth, among other things. Interestingly, the negative Rh strain is characteristics, for example, of the British royal family, which has generated controversial theories about a possible extraterrestrial lineage. Although this hypothesis has not been confirmed, the disturbing question it generates floats in the air: how civilized world will react to the fact that a small portion of the Earth's population has a genetic code that has been altered in a distant past by highly advanced extraterrestrial beings. This is science. This is science. This is science. This is science. Okay, let's keep it kicking. Now we finna get freaky now. Now we finna get freaky. Okay? Now we finna get freaky. See, I'm not about to play I didn't really come in here to play games today. I really didn't. Now here we go. Genetic origins of non-Africans. Okay, descendants. Part 1, right? This is an African woman. Okay? This is an African woman. These are Aboriginal melanated entities who, I want to say the name of the island was Bushwan or Bushman, something like that. I'm mad it's leaving my head right now. But they're from over there by China, okay? So I went basically to the 4 corners of the earth and got every type of African descendant you could from a melanated woman. So I have a black queen straight from Africa. I got your Aboriginal melanated deity that was over here in North and South Americas. I got my Caribbean queens right here. I got another queen right here from Africa. And even though they're light-skinned, the reason I put her in here is because their tribe has never had sexual reproductive events take place with anybody that's non-African, and they're light-skinned. So I did that to show y'all that black people, we naturally come light-skinned too. Now with that being said, and then I have these goddesses right here from over there by the continent of Asia. So this is to show you the African gene, or the mitochondrial Eve gene, existing without Neanderthal influence all around the world up until 6,000 years ago. Now, why is this important? All non-Africans are part Neanderthal. Genetics confirmed. This ain't no motherfucking theory, no speculation. This is confirmed by genetics. If your heritage is non-African, you are part Neanderthal according to a new genetic study. This is posted, whatchamacallit? Post date was July 18th, 2011 in the July issue of Molecular Biology and Evolution. So this is not up for debate. So when we're talking about extraterrestrial genes, we are the extraterrestrials. We have the genetic composition created from the cosmos. Everybody else is hybrid and is tainting the bloodline of African people. Now let me keep this pushing. Genetic origins of non-African descendants, okay? What is a hybrid? In biology, a hybrid is the offspring of two plants or animals of different species or varieties, such as a mule, right? A hybrid of a donkey or a horse. Now I want y'all to keep a mule in y'all mind because I'm gonna use the example in a minute, right? Definition number 2, a thing made combining two different elements in the mixture, right? Now why is this important? Because they will tell you that this nigga comes from us. That's what they say. They say, oh, we evolved and blah, 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 blah. And white people is, what they tell you is black people went up into the cold, okay? And then somewhere it got so goddamn cold that a nigga lost his melanin and turned white. But what they don't tell you is, even if you go into the cold, right? Let's just hypothetically say you turn white when you go into the cold. Even if you give them that bullshit, stupid ass point, what that got to do with a calcified pineal gland? What do that got to do with the A and B blood types, which is really antigens? The antigen is a toxin or foreign substance introduced into the body that invokes a response in the immune system. How did we get antigens in the blood? How did we get calcified pineal glands? How did our hair no longer become flocculus and become animal-based follicles to where we can get lice? So that being said, how did our entire biology change because we went somewhere where it was goddamn cold? How did we become Neanderthals by being in a cold where there ain't no Neanderthals? Neanderthals is monkeys and primates. I don't know no goddamn monkeys that live in goddamn Alaska. I don't know any. It might be. I've never heard of one. So with that being said, I don't know any monkeys that live up there in the goddamn on Mount Everest. So how the fuck did we go into Mount Everest and pick up? That's like saying you went to Alaska and picked up anaconda genes. Ain't no goddamn reptiles in the wintertime on this planet. So with that being said, the evolution theory is highly incomplete. Now, when they say first I'm gonna read the article, right? National Geographic proves teaching on Mr. Yakub. Okay, now watch this. The prestigious National Geographic Society has reported that scientists studying DNA have now confirmed that Europeans as a people are younger than we thought. Using the unbiased measure of genetic science, they point to the same birth date for the European as did the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. Professor Alan Cooper, director of the Australian Center for Ancient DNA and Research at the University of Adelaide, analyzing DNA from ancient skeletons and found that the genetic makeup of modern Europe was established just 6,500 years ago at most. So Europeans are only 6,000 years old, period. Now, when they say Europeans come from melanated people, this is who they're talking about. But he is not us. See, he's not of African descent. The African is the bloodline is royal because it's non-Neanderthal. Now, this is a Dravidian. So this is one of them niggas that you see over there in India acting like he us, but he really not us. So when they say white people come from melanated people or black people, they're not talking about us. They ain't got, listen, Chinese people, Korean people, white people, all non-African people ain't got shit to do with our genetic lineage. We are in a whole nother bracket genetically and biologically. So let me tell y'all how the European was created. Okay? Or all non-Africans was created. Specifically, we're going to start with little Cody right here. Cody comes from him. This is a Dravidian. This is an albino Dravidian. So him is him, okay, in an albino state. And this is Neanderthal, okay? And then through genetic engineering processes and other processes that I explain step by step in my genetic engineering lecture, so I'm not going to do it over now, you get him. So long story short, assuming that you watched my genetic reincarnation lecture, you know what I'm talking about. So assuming that you watched it, Cody comes from him. Cody ain't got shit to do with us. Cody ain't got nothing to do with us, okay? So get that in y'all head. We didn't evolve from these motherfuckers. We didn't do nothing. If the evolution theory not true, but even if it was true, it ain't got nothing to do with black people. It ain't got nothing to do with us. So what y'all got to understand is this is Cody's ancestry, okay? And this is why they say only if you're not of African descent, you're not a human being, because everybody comes from Neanderthal genetic installments. They're not purebred genetic organisms like us. This is why we're deemed extraterrestrials and we have the royal bloodline, because our genes are, for one, not even from this planet, and for two, our DNA comes straight from the cosmos. It's organic. We don't have any Neanderthal traces and shit like that in us. Now, with that being said, genetic origins of non-African descendants, part 3. Now we want to talk about where Spanish people and Chinese people come from. When you take a Mongoloid, right? A Mongoloid is like a Genghis Khan looking person, a Mongol. So these would be like Chinese people, Asian people who are also Neanderthal, right? When Mongoloid people and Chinese people, because we're talking about where does Hispanic culture come from, okay? When Mongoloid people and Chinese people started coming over here, along with Christopher Columbus and all of them, what y'all gotta remember is Italians were walking the planet. Now Italians are basically like mulattoes. Long story short, Hannibal went over there to Italy, conquered, did what he did. They interbred with the European women over there, or with the Caucasian women over there. Okay, the Caucasian women were mulattoes, and then once the mulattoes actually started to go back to the Caucasian-based genetic organisms sexually reproduced, they became what you call Italians. This is why Italians have a natural tan. The average Caucasian doesn't have a natural tan. When you watch Jersey Shore and you see the Italian on there, the Italians on there, they look more peachy as opposed to pale. That's because they have a small concentration of melanin, just like Chinese people. This is why they call Chinese people the yellow man. Okay, they don't call him the white man. They call him the yellow man because he has a small concentration of melanin that's at a higher content than the Caucasian. A Caucasian. The word Cauc comes from caucus, dead corpse. Asian. A Caucasian is a genetically dead Asian. So he is him genetically dead. Okay, now let me show you where Mexicans and everybody and Hispanic people come from. And like I said, this is not about racism. This is about education, because everybody needs to know the truth so that, you know, the world can go the way it's supposed to go. Now, with that being said, you have Mongoloid entities, right? When these Mongoloid entities, being Chinamen, Korean men, all of it, they all in the same family, Mongoloids. When these Mongoloids brought their ass over here, okay, and they started sexually reproducing with Italians and mulattoes, okay, and descendants of whatchamacallit. Oh, I done went too far. And they started reproducing with aboriginals, okay, or black people that was already over here. They created Mexicans and Hispanic people. So this is why Mexican people don't like getting called this is why Mexicans don't like being called a spick, or Hispanic people, they feel like it's a racist, or they don't like being called mutts. But you have to ask yourself, why would somebody call a Hispanic person a mutt or a spick? That's because they're mixed with all kind of genes. They're mixed with Mongoloid, Italian, mulatto, and that creates a Mexican. Now, if you look at this Mexican, his feet, he looked just like him. He looked just like him. So we have to understand where people come from. So she's from the Dominican Republic, okay? She's from the Dominican Republic. She's Hispanic. Now, why is this important? Here we go. We got the Puerto Rican princess, right? Off of Love and Hip Hop. Now let's do a cycle lot, and I'm gonna use her as an example for why I'm doing this, for why this is important. She called herself the Puerto Rican princess, right? And this is not to gun the queen down. The black woman is God. We love our women, and in doing so, we have to pave the way for truth, right? So this is the Puerto Rican princess, right? Now, it's not shit Puerto Rican about her at all. Puerto Rican is an ideology. It's a cult. It's not a, you can't be a Puerto Rican. Now, with that being said, he, as I just showed, has ancestral descendants from China and from that area, Mongolia. So with that being said, he's a Mongolian genetically and an Italian. So now with that being said, why is this important? Chinese people don't claim to be no goddamn Hispanic. So if we was really talking about getting our heritage from our ancestors, we would understand that our ancestors don't have any association with the shit we do today. And I'm going to prove it, right? This is Italy. This is Spain. Now, Italy is 17 hours and 57 minutes away from Spain. So damn near one whole day away to travel, right? Now, why is this important? Spanish, the Hispanic language, was created in Italy. It wasn't created in Spain. So now you speak Spanish and you claim a culture to where the language and the tongue that you use is not even from the goddamn geographic location that you claim. So now, for one, you speak a language that actually comes from Italy, doesn't even come from Spain. Now, that's one. Then for two, if a Mexican lived in Mexico, why is he speaking a language of somebody who's way the fuck on another continent? I'll tell you why. The same reason that I'm speaking English, because conquerors came over here and forced their ideology on you. She's from the Dominican Republic. He's a Mexican. So if he's from Mexico and he's over here in the Americas and she's from the goddamn Caribbean or the Bahamas and she's from Dominican Republic, there's no way in fucking hell that they should both have a linguistic system from Italy, let alone her. So now when we're talking about being Hispanic, she's not Neanderthal. She's black. She's of Africa. She is from African descent, but she believes that she is from where they from, because we are ignorant to genetics and blood types, and we are ignorant to the existence of extraterrestrials, which causes us to be ignorant to our true origins and the sacredness that lies above us, that lies within us. The African blood type, specifically the black woman blood type, should be worshipped, it should be protected, and it should be upheld in its purest extent and form, period. So now, with that being said, when we look at the facial features, she don't look nothing like them at all. But I'll tell you who she do look like. She look just like her. Look at the nose. Look at the nose. Look at the nose. Look at the lips. This is King Tut's mother. Okay? So she's talking about she's the Puerto Rican princess, but you don't look shit like a Mongoloid. You don't have Mongoloid DNA. And you speak a language that has nothing to do with where you're from. Okay? So that being said, with that being said, we have to stop being lost as a people and stop being ignorant to the science. Okay? So this just goes to show you the interdimensional handicap that black people are under. Period. Period. Okay, here we go. Genetic origins of non-African descents. Okay, part 4. Here we go. RH factor, monkey blood. So now what is the RH factor? Monkey blood. Exactly like I just said. What is monkey blood? The blood of a goddamn monkey. Okay? Now, who introduced monkey blood into the circulatory system of humanity? It couldn't have been African people or African descendants, because we don't have Neanderthal genes and DNA, and we was O negative. So what you have to understand is the A blood type is an antigen, as I explained, and the B blood type is an antigen. The A blood type is for dog, and the B blood type is for monkey. And this is why, like I said, we're not being racist, we're being scientific. This is why non-African people smell like wet dog when it rains, because they literally have dog genes. Now, why is this important? This leads to all kind of circulatory diseases, okay, or hemolytic or hemo-based diseases. So when you have sexual intercourse with somebody outside your race, okay, this leads to red blood cell hemolysis. Excuse the typo. Now, red blood cell hemolysis is basically when you ejaculate, because as a woman, we know that, a man can ejaculate his sperm into you, but as a man, a lot of men are ignorant to the fact that your penis not only pushes, but it contracts. And when your penis contracts, it sucks in oxygen, or if you're in the vagina, because you're in the process of sexual intercourse, you suck in bodily fluids. So the penis intakes substances just like the vagina. So with that being said, whenever you have sex with somebody, okay, you are trading blood and sperm fluids, blood and semen fluids. And with that being said, what happens is the Neanderthal and antigens in the blood of the person outside your race that you're having sex with travels to your bloodstream, and it literally begins to thin the protein in your blood and destroy the proteins in your blood. And when this happens, this is called red blood cell hemolysis. Now, once red blood cell hemolysis takes place, it leads to what is known as hemolytic disease. Hemolytic disease is when, as you can see here, a mother, the negative signs is symbolic to Rh negative. Rh means rhesus monkey. Rhesus monkey is an actual monkey. So when they say you're positive for rhesus monkey blood, Rh positive, you're positive with having rhesus monkey blood. Now, this mother is negative, but the baby is positive because she has sex with a Rh positive father. So now what happens is the body literally identifies, the mother's body literally identifies the baby as something foreign, and it sends antibodies, okay, or red blood cells over the placenta to terminate and kill the baby, because the body is saying that this is a foreign species inside of me that doesn't exist. Now, with that being said, let's go into hemolytic disease a little more. Hemolytic disease is the allergic reaction that occurs when an Rh negative mother is carrying an Rh positive child. Her blood builds up antibodies to destroy the alien substance. It says alien substance, the same way it would a virus, thereby destroying the infant. But the question is, why would a mother's body reject her own offspring? Answer: nowhere else in nature does this occur naturally. The same problem does occur in mules, a cross between a horse and a donkey. This fact alone points to the distinct possibility of a crossbreeding between two similar but genetically different species. Now, why is this important? Remember earlier when I read the definition of hybrid, and it said, and it broke down the proponents of a mule and a donkey. Now, hemolytic disease occurs when you study genetic engineering. Any entity that is genetically engineered, aka spliced with two different formats of DNA, automatically suffers from hemolytic disease, and they can't sexually reproduce. So with that being said, the fact that Caucasians have introduced hemolytic disease into the field of sexual reproduction shows that their genetic composition is not natural. And the fact that they have human and monkey DNA, but we know that a human can't impregnate a monkey, also shows that an unnatural genetic composition took place, okay, in order for them to even be walking around and be manifested today. So with that being said, we have to understand the deep proponents of science, because that's the only thing that's going to unlock our minds to the true understanding of where we come from as far as celestial origins. Now, with that being said, let's keep it kicking. Did ancient Egyptians document extraterrestrials? Did ancient Egyptians document extraterrestrials? You see the elongated heads of the children. You see the elongated heads, okay, of the king and the queen. Without me going into an entire historical account on this depiction, we're just going to keep it in this field right now. Elongated heads. We're not going to worry about who specifically they are or anything right now. I want y'all to just pay attention to the elongated heads. Now look at the elongated heads of these actual brothers from Africa. Now look at these elongated skulls that was found, right? Now we're going to keep it kicking, because I want y'all to keep that in your head. Truth behind the scenes. Actual and revealing news, okay? Shocking DNA results show that the Star Child skull is alien. Now they found the Star Child skull. They found a skull that they named it the Star Child skull because they said it come from the stars, and it's of a child, right? And this is the skull right here. You're looking at it. Now, why is this important? This skull, right? It's a 900-year-old human-like bone skull with distinctly non-human characteristics. It was unearthed in the mine tunnel near New Mexico's Copper Canyon around 1930, right? The Star Child Project is an informal research group that has coordinated numerous scientific investigations since its founding in February of 1999. Now, why is this important? The Star Child skull was genetically tested, okay, and it only matched 1 out of 167 different haplogroups. Now, if you don't know what a haplogroup is, let me explain. A haplogroup out of the 167 different types is basically the different genetic possibilities of children that can be sexually reproduced, or genetic material that can be organized through sexual reproduction of all the people on the planet. So let me give you an example. If me being a black man, if I have a baby with a white woman, that might be haplogroup 1. If I have a baby with a black woman, that might be 2. If I have a baby with a mulatto woman, that might be 3. If I have a baby with a black person that's mixed with Chinese, that might be 4. So out of all of the different genetic formats of people walking around on the planet, there is 167 total possibilities of the type of genetic person you can produce. Now, why is this important? The goddamn Star Child skull only matched 1, which means there's 166 DNA sequences that it doesn't match. So guess what the one is that it matches? You guessed right, the one of African descent. So with that being said, the other thing about this skull that makes it so extraordinary is it's the skull of a baby. Now, why is this important? If it's the skull of a baby, it has to have parents. So they found the baby skeletal remains. They didn't find no goddamn parental skeletal remains, which means wherever the parents are, they could still be running around this goddamn planet today. So with that being said, we have to understand that African people have genetic DNA. And you can see it all right here. You can see when we say the 124 alien genes or the genes that's not from this planet, you can see these brothers share the same elongated skull as the goddamn skull that they found on the ground. So with that being said, according to Stephen Greer, his program has approximately 3,500 cases where ET vehicles landed and left physical traces, 4,000 cases where they have been tracked on radar and seen by pilots. An extraterrestrial's body was even presented, okay, that is most likely not of human origins, which I'm showing the body in the next slide. The evidence of the evidence of UFO existence is overwhelming. There's more evidence for UFOs than there is for black holes, most of the theories in astrophysics, and most of the medications that you take. And yet there is a blockage in the mainstream media and scientific establishment saying where's the evidence. And this paraphrase in this section also comes straight out of the documentary. Period. Now look at this. This is a real extraterrestrial body. This is a real. I'm gonna shut the fuck up and just let you look at it. I ain't even gonna say nothing for about 10 seconds. I'm gonna let you just look. Crazy. Y'all done looking? Is it done fucking your head up yet? Okay, I'll give you about 5 more seconds. About 5 more seconds. See, I told you, I'm not coming with no month. I didn't come in here to play. See, we not talking about, dude. This is extraterrestrial. What the fuck more proof do you need? Nigga, this is the body. This is the body. Now, a lot of people gonna say, Pharaoh, how you know that that's their body? How you know that? Okay, nigga, X-ray don't lie. X-ray don't lie, bruh. X-ray don't lie, bruh. It got bones in there. It got bones and tissue in there, bruh. So ain't nobody make no motherfucking, ain't nobody make no dummy that good. Okay, where they put the bones in there too. The X-ray don't lie. The X-ray don't lie. So here we go. Let's keep it kicking. Let's keep it kicking. Let's keep it kicking. Okay. Look at that. They took the eye out. Okay, they're doing the autopsy on the extraterrestrial. They're doing the autopsy. And so we can see here that this is an actual corpse, actual body. This is not no made up shit. This is not a hoax. It's not fake. It's real. Now, for niggas who might have an even more hard time accepting the truth, I got the video testimony from the Serious Disclosure documentary of the motherfuckers who did the damn radiology on the being, and I'm about to let you listen to the doctor confirm that it's real. So now listen to this.
Upon arriving in Spain to look at the being for the very first time, I was kind of skeptical. It was definitely a game changer for my thought process to actually see it in person than to see it on film. The first thing we had to do was go to the radiology lab because we needed x-rays and CAT scans before we did anything. The head radiologist at the center saw the being and was quite impressed. And the first thing she said was, "Wow, that looks like an alien." And when the CAT scan images started coming up on the computer, it was just profound. And I saw inside the bone, and I saw, organs and lung material, brain material. I knew that this was not a hoax, it was not fake, that this was actually some sort of living creature.
Okay, nigga. Okay, niggas. Do y'all do? See, we here to kill the skeptic, and I'm bringing it back. He said lung material, bone material, okay? Structure, okay? So with that being said, look at, this is an actual being. An actual being with a skeletal system, with bone material, with organs, okay? With lung tissues, okay? So it was living at one point in time. So this is what people don't understand. Fantasy is reality, and reality is fantasy. The shit that they tell you ain't real. They said giant squids wasn't real for the longest. Them shit's just real. Okay? You think motherfuckers just wasted all that goddamn time in ancient times telling people that it's a motherfucking kraken out there that'll eat your goddamn boat? You think they just made that shit up? Okay? So with that being said, you think our ancestors just made up the existence of extraterrestrials? Even for niggas, even for Aboriginal niggas, for niggas who don't identify with Africa, that's cool. Okay. That even over here, the Indians call their ancestors star people. They say their ancestors came from the star. The Dogon tribe of Mali sharpen their teeth to mimic reptilians. What are you talking about? You think our ancestors just documented all of this shit because it was cute? Motherfucker. So where do you think information comes from? It comes from a conscious field. Okay, that's shared by everybody. Period. So with that being said, we need to understand that it's higher planes of existence that we are denying ourselves. Okay, period. Let me keep it kicking. Stephen Greer on first starting out. Stephen says he first formed the CSETI, aka the Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence, okay, to form a diplomatic corps to make peaceful contact with these ET civilizations. He later goes on to say how he started a set of protocols to make contact, and sure enough, we had spectacular success. He says, right? This got picked up by the intelligence community, aka the government. So by 1992, I was getting visits from the head of Army Intelligence and other 3-letter agencies. So Stephen Greer goes on to say, my intention was never to get involved with trying to disclose the issue. My interest was in the whole concept of making contact for peaceful purposes and to advance civilization from a planetary civilization to an interplanetary civilization. Now, but along that way, a man who is friends with the director of the CIA at the time, by the time Clinton became the president, said, quote, you're going to be the first person to brief the director of Central Intelligence, aka the CIA, and the Clinton administration on this, because they had made inquiries, but they had been lied to. This is coming straight out of my man. This is coming straight out of from Stephen Greer. Okay, Roswell incidents leads to USAPs. The incident at Roswell, okay, led to the event of bringing forth material that could be publicly studied. This caused the government to make a change in its national security organization. Within weeks of the Roswell incident, the CIA was formed. The Air Force was also formed by being split out of the Army Air Force. This also, in the end, led to the development of USAPs. This is why President Eisenhower, even though he knew about the subject on a fairly deep level, had completely lost control of it by 1961 when he left the office. From this became a separation between legitimate national security and deep black programs that are unacknowledged. Once again, this is straight quoted out of the documentary. Now, a USAP program stands for Unacknowledged Special Access Program. And these are programs that are actually considered black programs. They're not monitored or overseen by the government, the president, the Congress, or anybody. So this is why Edward Snowden got in trouble, because he told on a secret operation, that was actually overseen by the president. These are not overseen by the president or the Congress or underneath the scrutiny of the citizens of this country. So therefore, you can't get in trouble for talking about it. Now, with that being said, USAP black budget, okay? This is a secret unacknowledged budget, right, that runs from $100 to $200 billion a year. The Pentagon's own auditors admit that it cannot account for 25% of what it already spends. There are a minimum of 2.3 trillion unaccounted for funds and transactions. That's $8,000 for every man, woman, and child in America. Now remember, on September 20th of 2001, Donald Rumsfeld held a press conference to state that the Pentagon was missing more than $2.3 trillion. But the next day was 9/11, okay? And remember also in 2001 is when Stephen Greer and them held that conference in Washington, D.C. to expose extraterrestrials. So the government knocked down 9/11, not only to carry out their agenda, but to create a story in the media line that would allow you to be distracted from the fact that they just almost got outed on high intelligence of extraterrestrials, as well as to make you forget about the $2.3 trillion that came up missing, because if you would have investigated and tracked it, you would have seen that it was going to these USAP programs who are actually reverse engineering extraterrestrial technologies from crash UFOs and creating what is called ARVs, alien reproduced vehicles, as well as other destructive arrangements on the planet Earth. Now, with that being said, let's keep it kicking. Official testimonies on USAP programs, Black Budgets, Part 1, right? This is Daniel P. Sheehan. He's a constitutional attorney, and he's quoted stating, "It's now the military-industrial intelligence complex that are moving bureaucratically toward establishing dominion and control over the entire democratic process in the country, and they're waging war, invading the Middle Eastern oil fields and occupying the oil fields, attempting to establish what they themselves refer to as full spectrum control." Testimony number 2, Michael Schratt, military aerospace historian. "We're spending well over $100 million per day on classified programs that have no congressional oversight, no public scrutiny, and no monitor of these programs. A number of these programs go directly through Congress totally. When you start going through these documents, these programs start dropping off the radar screen. These are the classified programs within the defense budget. I mean, these are all classified programs within the defense budget, but they don't supply any technical information on the program." Keeping it kicking. Once again, official testimonies on how USAPs work. Daniel P. Sheehan, constitutional attorney. "They have formed alliances amongst themselves, right, of the industry that makes money by building war machines, the military that uses the war machine and justifies them, okay, and the intelligence community that is not really an intelligence community. It's a covert operation community armed with military weapons and nuclear weapons. And they are trying to push boundaries now of establishing their dominion and full spectrum dominance over the planet." Okay, the president and Congress in regards to USAP. Because if all of this shit is going on, we got to assume that the president and the Congress know, right? Well, Stephen Greer, when speaking on the above issue, said, if people think the Congress and the president actually have a handle on this, they are gravely mistaken. They do not. This is where we get into the structure of secrecy. There is secrecy that is legal, which is being managed by the president, the Congress, and the intelligence community, and that the intelligence communities know about. And then there is secrecy that is illegal, being the USAP, aka unacknowledged special access programs, because they are not overseen by the president, Congress, etc. Stephen was once told by the former director of CIA named James Woolsey. James Woolsey told Stephen Greer at a conversation they were having one time, he says, quote, "I already know this is real in regards to the extraterrestrial phenomena," but he said, "But why am I, the CIA director, James Woolsey, and the president of the United States not being told anything about it?" So before we go any further, what we need to understand is that, the problem is deeper than the government. There's a shadow government, which I broke down in one of my YouTube videos, that due to my research is ran by extraterrestrials, that actually is what we would call the elites. So the president, when we talking about, we already knew the president didn't run shit, but now we know how and why. So with that being said, these USAP programs are actually causing the destructional influences in the world and using the ones controlling the media, and they don't even give access to the president or to face law enforcement agencies like FBI, CIA, etc. to certain people if they're not down with the program. So what people don't have to understand, what people have to understand is this is shit that you see in movies. This is shit but this is real shit. It's like 007 where he had never met the dude who was actually the agent, I think it was called Spectrum. He actually ran Spectrum, and it was like he had never met him. That's exactly what this type of shit is. It's a government within a government. And these are the people that are hiding and controlling the flow of information, period, from the public. Now, that being said, USAP basis document. This is an actual document containing all of the bases. So you got like Royal Ops, Cosmic Ops, Majestic Ops, Comet Ops, Cosmic Ops, Elite Ops, etc. These are all of the unacknowledged special access programs bases, right? This is from the Central Security Service, status classified restricted subject matter, Special Security Advisory. This document is from July 28, 1991. Okay, and this document is dated July 28, 1991, right? And it lists all the compartmented operations ran out of the Nellis facility. the Nellis facility is wrongfully called Area 51 by the public. So that area that you call Area 51 is actually known as the Nellis facility, Nellis. This document was given to Admiral Tom Wilson, who was the head of the intelligence, for the Joint Chief of Staff. Admiral Tom Wilson, after being given this document that I'm showing you with all of these USAP programs, called one of these departments asking to be briefed on his activities and was told he doesn't have a need to know. These programs do not care about one's rank and position. They only care about where you go along with their agenda. Now, let me show y'all how critical this is. This document has a list of all of the undercover operations that was going on underneath the government nose, right? Now, let me show y'all who the fuck the Joint Chief of Staff is if you don't know. The Joint Chief of Staff is a body of senior uniformed leaders in the United States Department of Defense who advise the President of the United States, the Secretary of Defense, the Homeland Security Council, and the National Security Council on military matters. Now, at the time, Tom Wilson was the head of intelligence for the Joint Chief of Staff. So Tom Wilson's job was to advise the United States Department of Defense, the President of the United States, the Secretary of Defense, Homeland fucking Security, and National Security. So he is in charge of all of these major law enforcement agencies, and he made a call to one of these goddamn operations, and they told his ass, you don't have a need to know. How the fuck you tell the Joint Chief of Staff that he don't have a need to know about what the fuck is going on as far as the security of this country is concerned? So this goes to show y'all how out of control these motherfucking USAP programs have grown. So when we talking about the extraterrestrial phenomena, it get deeper than deep. So I want y'all to understand how detrimental this shit is, okay? And this is an actual document listing all of the bases, right? From that point in time. We don't know where they moved and located to because niggas is always late. So that document is from that century. It's 2017 now. Now, that being said, Bill Clinton on the UFO disclosure. According to Stephen Greer, within a couple of months of him briefing the CIA director, right, he got a visit from one of Bill Clinton's good friends in his home who says to him, we love what you're recommending, being that the president do executive orders to declassify and bring all of this information out. They really think that it's a great idea, but the president won't do it because it's dangerous. So Steve Greer then said, well, he's the president. If he didn't want to be the president, he shouldn't have taken on a responsibility and sworn an oath to the Constitution. Bill Clinton's friend then said to Stephen Greer, yeah, but you don't understand. They don't think that they can protect the president. They're concerned that he may end up like John F. Kennedy. Now, my point is this. I honestly wouldn't give a damn, because if you are the president of a country, this is your nation, you should be able to risk your life and tell the truth for your nation. I love my family. I love my household. I will put my life on the line for my household. So that being said, people got to stop taking positions that they're not ready to fulfill. But then for two, this is a damn shame when you got the government and you got the Secret Service and you got all of these agencies not feeling confident in their ability to protect the president of the United States from the fucking USAP program. It's a shame when you got the Joint Chief of Staff can't even call and get no information on these programs, and you the goddamn Joint Chief of Staff. So now we have to ask, how much power does the government that we see on the surface actually really have? Now, with that being said, the assassination of Marilyn Monroe and JFK. I bet y'all didn't know Marilyn Monroe and John F. Kennedy got killed behind extraterrestrials. I bet you didn't know that. Now watch this. According to Stephen Greer, John F. Kennedy intended to shrink the military-industrial complex and also had plans to virtually dissolve the CIA, who were involved in some nefarious plots, including the sale of narcotics. JFK also wanted the UFO matters disclosed. These and other